Hey Dev, long time no see. In this video, we're going to continue working on our Instagram clone project. Our plan is to create a user profile and display users gallery, and we're going to load the data from Node.js backend that we built in the previous video. So you can find the source code in our description, and let's get started. As usual, to start our front end, I'm going to create a new React application. I want to keep both the front end and backend in the same parent directory, which will be the demo folder I'm in right now. So my backend is located in the instaclone folder. Let's type npm create vite latest. We're going to give it a new name. So project name going to be instafe, obviously for front end. We have to select React from the list of the available builds. Now a variant is going to be React router, so no roll down, and we're going to install it with npm and start now. Proceed with Y. We don't really need a new Git repository, so press no. We're going to install all dependencies with npm, and after everything is ready, we can run our application with npm run dev. Just make sure you're located in the right folder. In our case, it's instafe. And right now we can go ahead and check our localhost 5173 and see our app is up and running. So you can see React Router. This is default for React Router application. So let's visit our home component. This is where our default router is located. And on line 12, instead of returning a welcome message, we're just going to return a simple string named hey. And now if we go back to our local host, we're going to see blank page with this string. So quick note, our plan right now is to create a new route for the user profile component. To do that, we are going to visit routes.ts and add a new route into our route config. So I'm going to add inside this array a method named route. And in parentheses, I'm going to define the route itself. So it will be /profile/id. It's going to be dynamic route. And that is going to lead us into route profile.tsx. Profile.tsx is not created yet. So this will be our next step. So we also have to import our route. So right now we can go ahead and actually create the component that will be responsible for rendering using profile and its gallery and all this fancy Instagram thing. So let's go to routes and create a new component, and we're going to call it profile.tsx. Inside our profile.tsx, we're going to create a component named profile. And as you might remember, this route is going to be dynamic. So we want to get our ID path parameter from the route using the useparams React hook. So here I'm going to say that ID expected to be a string, and now I want to return a user profile ID that we just retrieved from our route. So h1 will be user profile, and we're going to use variable ID. Also, I want to keep it clean, so I put my home and profile components into routes/components folder, and now I want to update our routes.ts. So index will get routes components, and the same thing is going to happen with routes. So let's try to run our application and see the result. So this is our profile page 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, this is route is dynamic. So if we, for example, type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, our ID retrieved from the route will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Very neat, huh? So now that the profile component is ready, we can move on to defining the backend response types. Since we're using TypeScript for that, we're going to create folder types, and inside I'm going to create a new file that is going to be representing our backend response, right? So we're going to call it UserProfile.ts. Inside of this user profile, we're going to export type named user profile, obviously. So first I want to define ID, right? It's going to be string, and username. Again, that's going to be string. The rest of the properties I really don't remember. So let's go to our backend, to our user service. I think it's there, and see what other properties we have here. So we have ID, username, user account, number of posts, followers, following, and all that. So basically this is what we have to match in our front end to be able to receive the response. So user account name, it's going to be string. So basically copy and pasting, and instead of actual values, assigning types number or strings. So for each of them, we're assigning all this value. For thread name, it's string or null, because I want to allow this. For profile, image source is going to be string, but for list of posts is the most interesting one. Here's the deal. We're going to use another type called images. Images, this type we're not defined yet, but we're about to. And that will be a separate type that we already have in our backend, right? That represents images. And let's create a new file, call it images.ts. And now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to export. We're going to say type. We're going to give it the name images. And inside, we just have to find this images. All right, I think it's in temp data. So you see second and first images, image source, ID, author, and type. This is the data, the shape of the data, how it's supposed to look like. So ID is going to be string. I think it's image source, again, string, author, string. And the last one is going to be type, and that's going to be string as well. It's good for now, and let's import our images into UserProfile. So we are ready. And now let's go ahead and start working on our profile itself. Our first step is to create a new variable, current user, and set current user using useState hook. And our current user is going to be represented, yes, exactly, with our UserProfile data type, or no, well, that will be our initial, but yeah, UserProfile, that will be expected type for our current user. So I'm going to say use effect, and here I'm going to say basically the main idea, the sum method, sum function is going to run every time our ID changes, and call our API saying, hey, this is the new ID, give me the user with this ID, so I will see all their images and data and username and all that. So get user profile does not exist, so let's go ahead and create it. We're going to say const get user profile. It's going to be a sync. Accepted parameters will be user ID, either string or undefined for now. And inside our function body, we're going to use try or catch, obviously, because we want to make sure if it's an error, we're going to catch it, but it's just basically console.error, yes, console.error, and we're going to print the error. Not much here, not real handling, but good enough for us. So we're going to say const response, await, fetch, and going to call our backend, local backend. So localhost 3000 and our /user/user ID as a variable. Now we're going to say if our response is not 200 using an exclamation point, then we're going to throw an error. And basically that's going to be like new error, failed to fetch user. That should be good enough. Now if everything okay, we're going to say const data, and data should be type of user profile, right? Going to be awaiting when the response will be transformed to a JSON. So response JSON. And if everything okay, we're going to set our current user into the data we just received. And that's basically it. So right now let's go ahead and update our return statement. Just I want to display username we just received from our backend to test it, right? To make sure it's all working. I'm going to type here in parentheses, in the curly braces, I'm going to take current user, right? Dot username. Remember username is a part of our property, and I'm going to use a null operator for our current user to avoid any runtime errors if it's null. Now let's go ahead and check our local host. Make sure your backend and front end are running. So if we go to profile 123, we should see the name of our user, Michael C. This is the user that is in our user service. Let's just check it quickly. So if our ID 123 is our name Michael C, so it's correct. We got our data from the backend. Yay! Also, I want to mention that if you want early access to new content before it's on YouTube, you can check out my blog. Along with early releases, it includes a lot of extra material that isn't available on YouTube. Besides that, I also started my Telegram channel to grow a developer community, so join in and let's learn programming together. So now I think it's time to make our application look much more like Instagram. So our original application, the user profile on Instagram, has a header where user details are displayed, such as user avatar, follower content, number of posts, and more. So let's create a folder named UI that will hold all these necessary little components. And the first component is going to be header. So I'm going to create file, touch Header.tsx, and it's supposed to be in our UI folder. So here I'm going to say export const header, and it's going to accept a property from the parent, from our user profile parent, and that will be header props. So let's go ahead and create these header props first. It's going to be interface header props. Inside it will be only one property, user, type of user profile, or null. Now we're going to basically do just return statements. So we're creating a header tag, and inside we're going to create a section. Inside this section, that will be a button, right? So it will be add icon. The purpose of this icon is to create a model, open a model to create a new post. So font size is going to be large, but the thing is we have to install Material UI for that. So you can see the statement npm install on my terminal, and make sure to add import add icon from there as well. So right now I want to track any changes for the header, so I'm going to import our header to profile.tsx. So header component is supposed to be imported now. Okay, looks good to me. Now we have our browser open, and we can see all real changes in real time. Since now we have our browser open, we're going to see all changes in real time. Let's add another button, and that's going to be a lock icon. Again, we're going to import it, it's all here. And next one is going to be a username. So I'm going to use tag B, and inside in curly braces I'm going to type user null operator dot username. Also, if you noticed, we already have our username on our page, so let's go back to header, provide our user data. So user properties is going to be current user, and get rid of h1. So everything will be delivered from our header. Let's create a new button, and that's going to be a menu button that will pull the Instagram menu when we're ready. Again, it's Material UI. Now we're done with this first section. Now let's create a new section. And let's see, what do we need here? We need image, we need account name, post followers, and number of followers. So I'm going to give a class name to this section. And maybe we can call it user details. Oh, also update our first section. Just want to make sure everything is in order. Add a new post container. Let's maybe rename actually user details into user data container. I think that will be better. So inside we're going to create a new section, give it a class name, user image container. Yes, so you can see the image there. So inside is going to be user profile picture, image source, user profile image source. And we're going to add alt. It's going to be user profile. So let's create a button that allows us to add a new picture, replace a picture. Again, it's Material UI. It's going to be add circle icon. We actually can start working our metadata for followers, number of posts, and number of following. So let's create a new section, and let's give it a name, user data info wrapper. Inside we're going to have our paragraph and B for bold inside. So it's going to be user account name. So we're creating another div, give it a class name, and that's going to be user details. So our actual metadata. Inside it will be 3 divs, and one will be for number of posts, and other 2 is going to be for number of followers and number of following. All right, our metadata is ready. Additionally, I want to add a description, right? For example, if our user has a bio or thread name, we want to also edit. So let's just go ahead and create a new section. Actually, I'm going to call it div. Too many sections already. So div class name is going to be description container, and inside I'm going to say paragraph, and here I'm going to say user profile description. Now let's create another div, and that will be for thread. So it's going to be user. If our thread exists, then we're going to display this user thread name. Otherwise, that's going to be like empty string. So just don't want to display anything. All right, let's add class to it. That's going to be a thread container. And now I want to create a section that will hold 3 buttons for edit, share, profile, and let's give it a class name, user profile buttons. Inside we're going to place 2 divs. First one will be button edit profile. Another one I'm going to copy and paste, and I'm going to change edit to shared profile. And the last one is going to be person add icon. Yes, again, material UI, and we're going to give it an ID, person icon, so it will be easier to style it. And this is how our result will look like without styling yet. So we can see here description, number of posts, and all this is loaded from our backend. Now let's go ahead and create a new file, user gallery, that will display all user posts. So touch user gallery .tsx. It's going to be in the same folder with UI and header, inside UI and with header. So let's just do export. I'm going to say const user gallery. In our parentheses, we're going to say posts, right? This will be our property, and the type will be gallery props. Now let's define interface the same way we did for our header. So interface gallery props, and inside we're going to have posts, and that's going to accept type images, array, or undefined. Again, this is for now. All right, so now we're going to create useState user posts and set user posts. And we're going to use state of the type images array, but our current state, initial state, is going to be empty array. And another one we're going to use is const select media type and set selected media type. So basically this is our 3 button that allows us to switch in between content types. It can be post, reels, or mentioned posts. So in our use state is going to have initial state of post. Now let's return a new section. I'm going to give it a class name, gallery switch button container, and inside we're going to type button, and actually maybe we will add 3 buttons, and I'm going to copy and paste my material UI icons I've already prepared. This will be grid on icon, smart display icon, and the last one is going to be assignment. But let's update our profile .tsx and add user gallery so we can see progress in real time. So user gallery has properties posts, and we're going to provide it. It's going to be current user list of posts. So our gallery now has all necessary data to be able to manipulate it. So let's add assignment icon to our last button, and now I want to wrap it in a different parent. So let's create a new section, and that will be the gallery. Let's call it gallery posts, and we're going to map our posts that we received from our parent. So for every post, we're going to create a new div, and inside of this div, we're going to have image source, post.image source, and out will be post author and image. So for example, Michael C. image. So this is how our posts looks like right now. Looks very nice, and I think this is time for styling. Also, make sure your service has list of posts field with images and second image from temp data. Otherwise, you'll have empty or null array of images. So let's go create a new folder and start styling. I'm going to create styles, and this is going to hold our header style, CSS, and gallery. Let's start with header first. So I'm going to define header. So header is going to have 5 pixels and 20 pixels padding. I'm going to import the header styles into our component, and our body actually going to be 500 pixels. So it's more like a phone. We can see it here. All right, so we're ready. So now adding new post container, displaying flags, justify context space between. Then we're going to add paragraph, display flags, align item center. User data container going to be flags, margin to 1 em, gap 1 em as well. So image from user image container are going to be 110 pixels, object fit cover, height will be 90 pixels, border radius, padding, and we're also going to add a border. So next one is going to be user image container button. It's going to be absolute position, bottom, padding, and right. And also we forgot to add position relative to the actual container, so it will look correct. User data info wrapper is going to have 90% of width. Then we're going to actually use user details class and display flex with 70%, justify content space between, gap 10 pixels, font size 0.9 em, and username is going to have line height and font size. Next, user profile buttons, display flex, gap 10 pixels, margin 1 em for top and bottom. User profile div buttons actually have a background color, kind of grayish, padding, font weight, border radius, and person icon is going to have just paddings 1 pixel to 10 pixels. And the last one, description container is going to have 0.9 em, and description container paragraph is going to have margin 1 em. Thread container is font size 0.9 em. And let's fix the button at the image. So change bottom from 76 pixels to 0. Last step is to update user gallery styles. So we're creating touch user gallery style CSS with our terminal. Now we're going to import to our user gallery this newly created file to be able to track our changes in real time. So first of all, I'm going to take gallery switch button container, and basically we're going to display it flex. Margin is going to be 1 em for top and bottom and 0 for left and right. Align item center and justify content space around. Next one is going to be gallery post class. So we're going to display it as a grid, and grid template columns will be 3 columns, 33% each. A gap in between will be 2 pixels. And the last one is going to be gallery post div image, so which is going to be 100%. Object fit is going to be cover, and height is 190 pixels. Voila! Our user profile is ready. We have a nice grid, and in the next video we're going to actually set up a database to get actual data and read it from our database. So stay with me and happy coding.